Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning.
And I'm Trinity French.
And we are your business coaches at Wired to Change.
With the number 2.
We help you get your business to the level you want it to be so you can enjoy the life of a small business owner.
Isn't it such a good life?
It is. I tell people it is stressful freedom, and it is both, and it's a lot of stress these days. Were you a better boss or employee?
I was a very good employee to a point.
Okay.
I'm a good employee for someone that lets me spread my wings and be creative. If they give me that runway, I'm all over it. Now, being a good boss, I've always had just innate leadership capabilities. And I found that I love coaching and training people because there is an upfront contract as to how you're going to work together. And I like the way that that feels more than a boss-employee relationship. So that's why I like staying more in that coaching, training realm.
When you and Scott were painting your front door, who was the boss? Who was the employee?
Oh, he doesn't touch shit now. He's
so
not
that makes
allowed.
you the boss.
He
You banned
is
him.
not allowed to touch a paintbrush. That man.
Oh, really?
No. He is not allowed to even come near a paintbrush in my house.
Okay, I can see through this right now. That is the classic husband move where you load the dishwasher poorly and your wife goes, just move, I'll do it. And you never have to do it again because you do it so crappy. That's chapter 1 of the husband handbook.
He honestly, I got hardwood floors put in the entire first floor of my house. And they're stunning. Love my hardwood floors. But then, you have the 1990s orange banisters that don't match the hardwood floors. So I decided to stain them a really dark color. It's like a dark brown, almost black. And Scott was gung-ho about helping me. We had just started dating. He really wanted to show that he was in it. And he starts painting, and I look up, and there is just black shit smeared all over the wall. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I didn't see that I got it there, or there, or there. And I said, you know what? If you'll go grab me 2 Coronas.
Yeah.
And I had him go grab me a beer. And then my second beer, because I chugged that
I was
first
going to
one.
say, and you get one for yourself.
And then I had my second beer, and I said, you just bring me beer all day, and I'm going to do all the painting by myself. Yeah, nice. But he's really helpful at all of the prep work. So like sanding and all that stuff, I'll have him help with that.
All right. Well, it's good that our guest today can help us differentiate between a boss and how to be a boss.
Yes, it is. We have a very, 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 very special guest again. Mr. Do you go by Dr. Dauv? Dr. Dauv.
There you go. Oh, my son the
like
doctor. That's
Swab.
what your mother says, yeah.
Yes, my son the doctor. Listen to our last podcast. Dr. Dauv Evans, he joins us. His business is the Gallus Collective. He is a phenomenal speaker, I know from experience. I've heard him speak in public forums before. He's also a trainer and a published author. I like to throw that. Multi-time published author of multiple books. And he's here today to tell us about this T-shirt you're wearing.
Oh, yeah. So Boss for Change.
Boss for Change is the T-shirt.
It says hashtag
Boss for Change.
The number 4.
Yeah.
With the number 4.
So people can look it up.
There you go. And I got that made because, again, one of my main topics I talk about is what it is to be a boss. And I talk to employees all the time in terms of not getting stuck in the same old mindset and feeling like you're limited in your abilities and you have limited opportunities available to you. Think of yourself as a boss. That's essentially what you can be if you wanted to. Even though you work for someone else, you can still be a boss. If you want to create change with your title, with the opportunities, with the amount of money you want to change it, boss for change. So that's the mindset that can take you from point A to point B. And essentially the way I define boss, because that word has such a negative connotation. I think
Yes, it
like,
does.
Boss, you're my boss. Man.
We did a whole podcast on the difference between a boss and a leader.
There you go.
did.
We did.
So I chose that word specifically because I know it has such a negative connotation.
It's a trigger word.
There you go. And I made it my personal mission to change, what it means to be a boss and how you look at that word. So essentially, if you're a boss, you have more autonomy over your particular brand and your self-worth. And again, that can take you from point A to point B. And I feel like most employees just feel like they automatically relinquish that once you step into company XYZ and go, you tell me what I'm going to do, you tell me my career trajectory, how much I'm going to make, I leave it all to you. And that's the opposite of a boss mindset, when you're really taking ownership of who you are, your talent, and leveraging that to get whatever it is you want. So
something triggered this in you. What was that event?
So there was quite a few, but the initial one I would say was I had spoke about this on the last podcast. I had a manager. She was very difficult and challenging.
Do you still talk today with her?
Yeah, we're Facebook friends.
I figured you would.
Yeah, and there's no malice or anything. Again, it's just annoying. The lessons that I learned were annoying in the moment because you don't realize you're learning lessons. But now, I mean, I talk about her all the time in terms of the lessons I got from her. So in terms of being a boss, I had a really big project that I did annually. It was called Commencement. It was a graduation. Several thousands of guests, hundreds of students graduating, string quartet. It's a 10-ring show. It's crazy. And I was not built to do that. But in her mind, when you do something, you do it, to perfection, period. I don't care if you're built for it or not. That's what you do. That's the level of expectation. And the things that the way she wanted me to take ownership of that was almost like it was my own business. And I was fighting that. I'm like, this is not, you just tell me what you want me to do and I'll get it done. And that's not what she wanted. She wanted me to take ownership of that and problem solve all the various problems that you can anticipate, as well as the ones that will happen the day of. She wanted me to take ownership. And that's what I was fighting. Once I took ownership of that, not only did that commencement run smoothly and I learned tons of lessons, I was able to become a better manager. All my employees who helped along were able to leverage their talent and shine and get recognition because of it. I was able to get shine myself because of it. Look at this wonderful commencement. Dauv did that. Other opportunities started to open up. Other people know who I am because of that. And I started to embrace that mindset a lot more. But that was just the first, I would say, leg of that lesson. But that's where it started. So I owe it to her. A
lot of times people will manage how they're managed. If they have that horse's ass as a boss, they think, well, I guess this is a way to get people to work. I sense that you did not carry on that tradition with the people helping you.
I did not. I had another manager. Again, this is why I say that was just one part of it. I had another manager. He was an excellent manager, and he had a very different management style. And he showed me the power of being able to leverage the talent of others. So not really being about you, but giving to others. So I had employees who had all kind of crazy dreams and things of that nature. And initially, if those ideas they have and things they want to do is completely different from what you had in mind, you want to hold the reins like, oh, no, what is that's not your job. Don't do that. But instead of doing that, finding ways to, number one, take some of the things they want to do and make sure that's aligned with your department, with your organization, and then let them fly from there. Because when they soar, again, they're on your team. When they soar, then your team soars. When they're winning, your team is winning. And I think we're scared of that because it looks different. Their ideas are foreign to you, and I understand that because they were to me. But when you embrace that instead of being fearful of that, I think that's how you can become a good, quote-unquote, boss. Again, they shine, you shine, your team shines, everybody wins. It's a win-win, right?
When that event was over, did your boss give you the credit to her bosses?
Absolutely.
Well done then, on her part, because we talked at length about that.
Okay, yeah, she absolutely did.
Because we've all been in those meetings where you come up with a great idea, Trinity stands up, yeah, we did, my team did, and she should have said, no, that was Dov's idea. Right. And so, well, good for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had she said, Dauv, pretend like this is your event, your business, I want you to run it, would that have made a difference? Would you have grasped then what she was trying to get across?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have. Number one, again, I'm like, I don't want to do that. That wasn't on there. I'm going to put on the job description. That wasn't on there. But
other duties as a side.
Yeah, there you go. Other duties. I'm like, that's a huge deal. But at the same time, I think, I don't think I fully understood what it was at the time. This was years ago. It was 12, 13 years ago. What it was to be a business
You were
owner.
like 4.
I know.
Glad you said that.
I was 6.5. I don't think I understood enough of what it is to be a business owner to even understand that verbiage had she said that to me. So it was probably best the way she did it, just, giving me the ownership, forcing me to have that type of ownership. And again, even though I went down that path begrudgingly, ultimately I was forced to take that ownership, learn those lessons. And again, I learned a lot. My team learned a lot, and I think we all were better because of it.
It's really interesting that you're touching on that because we just did a podcast like a couple of episodes ago, and we are speaking the same language and spreading the same message. So for those of you out there that are thinking about how you manage your team or how you perform within a team, I think it's really important to be introspective and also take really good feedback which is one of the things that I've always struggled with, is not getting enough feedback from my bosses or my peers, because I tend to take ownership of everything that I do beyond what is probably expected of me. And that has always got me quickly to being at the top of the totem pole of wherever I'm at. And so then I'm always managing others around me, but then there was never anyone that I could go to, which is why I actually started working with coaches and enlisting the help of coaches and having a coach and really working with people to hone my skills and for them to be able to give me some feedback. Because if you're not getting feedback from your employees or your coworkers in enough abundance, then you need to be able to go other places and get that feedback and have a place for you to vet your ideas and have someone sometimes shoot them down or tell you that you're being a little lofty.
Right. No, I agree.
So when you're working with your clients, what would you say is the biggest hurdle that they have to cross?
Probably one of the biggest hurdles is probably getting the clients out of their previous mindset. A lot of the clients have been working for quite some time, right? They're usually a little bit older and quite tenured, and they've been doing what they've been going about their business one way for quite some time. So when I talk to them about what it is to be a boss, like most people, you hear that word is has a negative connotation. But then when I talk about owning what you do, being able to see opportunities in spots you don't normally see them, when you are a boss, not only that, you create other bosses around you because you hold their feet to the fire in the same way as well. So it can be infectious. And when you talk to them about that, they don't think, again, they're stuck in their old ways, and B, they don't even think they can affect that type of change. They're like, I'm not a manager, I'm not a director. I can't, even if I wanted to do that, I can't do that. So that's why we have to talk about what it looks like. And when you see, again, if you're trying to win, when you see someone winning can be infectious. So I say, essentially, if you're a boss and you're winning, and then you hold someone's feet to the fire as well, that is going to be a lot more influential because they see you winning. Now, if you're losing, it's different. But if they see you're winning, again, that can really help that other person adapt that mindset, and then it spreads from there. And then before you know it, you have a department thinking like that. And then after that, you have an entire company thinking that way. And especially when you're going through, the situation that we're in now, there are a lot of companies and small companies, large companies that are scrambling, and you have leadership that are making some very tough decisions. And how much more beneficial would it be if you had your employees with that boss mindset who are aiding you in that process, who have already been thinking ahead, who already have some things in place to help you kind of fill in some of the gaps that we didn't see coming, instead of you having to take on all of the ownership over it. Well, now I got to problem solve this whole thing by myself, or me and the other three leaders, we all got to do this ourselves. If you have a room full of bosses, again, that may not be their official title, but they have that mindset. We're all on the same page. Like, oh, well, she already handled hers like a boss. She already thought ahead, and she already has that. And so does he, and so does she. How much easier is it to navigate these waters? So I've given talks where I talk about having employees and bosses help you navigate ambiguity in times of turbulence, like we're in now.
Like right now.
And the talk you were referencing, I talked about ambiguity and turbulence. And again, that's exactly what we're going through right now. So being a boss can be beneficial anytime, but especially in times like this.
And in times like this, there's no place for people to hide. I think this is really going to shine the light on the people who are a boss versus the people that clock in and clock out and really were just the ones that showed up and were a warm body in the office.
Right.
And this is going to shine a light on them. And there's going to be a lot of changes that happen within companies. A lot of companies are also going to say, man, we could cut down on office space rent and have a lot more people work from home, because those that do have that boss mindset are going to step up to the plate, probably even more so because now they have more autonomy, because it's not as easy to get a hold of your boss when you're virtual versus face-to-face. You're not going to just pop into their office.
Absolutely.
We're going to find out a couple things. We're hopefully in the middle of this, but we don't know yet. We're going to learn a lot about a lot of people here, and we've already started doing that. We're going to learn who's lazy. We're going to learn who doesn't care. And then there's going to be a star will be born somewhere. If you are that employee, so 2 questions for you on that. If you're that employee, that's listening, where should you learn to take your step and go, I got that? And if you're the boss, what are you looking for to try to help that employee that could be good, but hasn't gotten out of their comfort zone? How do you help them become that boss and that
Right.
star?
So first, if you're the employee, I would say that, one thing you definitely want to do, like right now, especially with everything that's going on, is start, if you haven't already done so, start to think ahead already. Because like you said, we don't know if we're in the middle of this situation in the beginning, but either way, things are going to look different while we're going through this. And then when things resume back to quote unquote normal, things are probably going to look different, even then. Okay, we're back to normal, but now we just found out we can have this whole department work remotely, or now we found out that these folks that are laid off, we're not bringing them back, or whatever it is. Start to project out right now. There's a lot of folks, again, if you're not in the boss mindset, you're waiting for the leader to tell you what's going to happen next. If you're in the boss mindset, you can already start to project and start to map out your trajectory. And again, offer some of those suggestions. If you're a leader in your organization and you already have enough on your plate, it'd be excellent. It'd be great to have someone to step up and give you, some solutions that they can actually ponder and chew on. And so that's the biggest thing. Go ahead and project out now. People do that when they're looking for a job. When they're getting ready to get for an interview, they go ahead and map out their 90-day plan already. Again, it's not too late to do that now. You have the job, but you still want to try to impress that director, that manager, as if you were still gunning for that job, if you will. You're always trying to impress. You're always trying to step your game up. If you are the manager, right, already the director, and you want to figure out how to create other bosses, if you will, you have to not be fearful of your team's skill set. Don't be fearful of their skill set. Again, as foreign as their ideas may be and things of that nature, you hired them for a reason, obviously. So, let them fly, let their talent shine. And it's going to be scary, just like flying in real life. It's a little scary, but you're able to get from point A to point B a lot more efficiently. So you have to let go and let them shine. And I think we see that that process be held back the biggest when it comes to millennials, because a lot of millennials will come out and they have a different mindset with, hey, I feel like I deserve and I'm able to, work and do my thing and things of that nature. And they feel entitled already. It's a different mindset.
It is.
But it's definitely a different mind. But you'll, I think folks will be amazed, once you give them some of that autonomy and give them some freedom with guidance, obviously, then you'll be amazed on what they can achieve and what they can do and help elevate your business, right? Two minds, two heads are always better than one.
I'm trying to think of what the what?
I'm just thinking, we laughed last episode about that's another podcast. Millennials. That's another podcast.
You won't need to have me up here more often.
Yeah, I have two boys in that age range, and believe me, we have in-depth conversations on that. Yes. And in fairness, though, today's world and expectations are different. For my generation, I'm 58. From what I'm learning, kicking and screaming, just like with technology and Trinity's reading and everything, I'm coming kicking and screaming into it, but it's for a good cause. We have to quit telling them about how they should fit into our world and our perception from 30 years ago or 40 years ago when we were their age, and realize today, yes, they're on their damn phone.
Right.
But you know what? It's not a phone. Yes, it's more of a research tool.
Yeah.
They rarely talk. They're either texting or watching videos or researching something. And we need to understand that. So as I talk to my fellow baby boomers, you just suck it up and deal with it. Because if you want the best out of them, you've got, it's like, and I go back and we've had this conversation, a football coach. If you're a coach that loves to throw the ball and you got a bad quarterback and an all-pro running back and a great offensive line, run the damn ball.
You gotta change it,
right? Exactly. So the same thing as a manager may kill you, but if you want the best out of them and makes your company better, hey, adjust a little bit. Yeah. Trinity's young. She's a baby.
I'm on the cusp.
Yes.
I am right on the cusp.
But you're wired different. You break the molds of a lot of generations. So, because you're just like, I got it. What do you mean? Just, I got it.
I have the same insecurities and
you wouldn't know
doubts that other people have, but the difference is that I don't let that come through.
You do not.
And I don't know where it came from. It's just something that I was born with.
And Mom helped bring that out, right?
Mom did help bring that out. Yep. I was actually very, very shy and still am very shy.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And
she is. I have learned that.
I am very shy. I was incredibly shy when I was a child, and my mom would force me to interact with other children because once I would interact with them, I would be leading the little group and having a blast and was bossy as all get out, and we all had a great time. But put me in a room with a bunch of strangers and I'm going to sit and observe and try to figure out what the heck is going on. And that's actually why I started my own, I like my own networking groups, because it takes some of the pressure off because I have something to do.
Right.
And then I'm not forced to network and mingle as much with new people.
Start from square one.
Yeah.
Right. I'm the same.
But going back, you really hit upon something, and I think just to elaborate on the power of having a bunch of people under you or in your team that have that boss mindset, because it's really like the mastermind mindset, where they describe a mastermind group as a group of batteries. And if you think about one single battery, what can you power with it? Not a whole lot. Maybe a remote control, right?
Yeah.
Or something that I shouldn't name on air. One single battery.
Why are you
not gonna
stopping
get
now?
you not gonna get you very far.
Really. Come on.
But you put 5 or 6 of those bad boys together, and all of a sudden you can power a whole lot more. And that, I think, is the nuts and bolts of why you want people around you that have that boss mindset, because the individual is not going to be as strong as all of those great thoughts and minds combined. So from my perspective, I've seen and I've had clients that are wanting to do that, but they also don't want to let go of their authority because they're afraid that they're going to be overshadowed, or all of a sudden they're going to be seen as obsolete because their team's trained so great. Like, why do we even need this manager anymore? When you come across clients that are battling with that, what recommendations and advice do you give them?
Well, I always talk about, the classic advice of, so when you help out other folks, more than likely in one form or another, it comes back to you anyway. So you can imagine, I've seen this more so with other folks than myself, but I've seen other folks who already had that boss mindset, and they gave their team, or they kind of prepped their team to be bosses in their own right. And then in doing so, those folks were able to go flourish and things of that nature, and they had other opportunities open up for them. And then, of course, they would go right back to their manager and go, hey, look, I have an opportunity doing X, Y, Z. Would you like to come along with me? Or I thought about you first, and things of that nature. So, if you're the manager and you are receptive to the boss mindset, it's almost like growing a garden, growing little flowers. All your team are little flowers. You're growing them, taking care of them, and once they grow and they produce whatever fruit or whatever vegetable it is, again, that's available to everybody, including yourself as well. And of course, since you're the gardener, you're the mastermind, as you almost said, then you can always go back and you can do that again with another team and another team. You have all these individuals all over the place as they grow, and they have all these opportunities available to them. And again, the one thing they all have in common is you. They can all come back to you if they want. And again, I have opportunities for you, things of that nature. I was able to recommend you for, whatever it is. So doing good for others is just the right thing anyway. But as you can imagine, again, more than likely it's going to come back to you because you're putting out some positive energy and helping people grow. It's going to come right back. The other thing with that is, a lot of times it can make your job a whole lot easier. So you're sitting around trying to problem solve everything by yourself, and you're probably getting it done, right? But you're expending a lot of energy, and think about how many other things you can be doing when you have a team with all these talents in place. This talented team that you hired, and you really kind of, take off the reins and kind of let them, run free for a little bit, with some guidance. And then once you do that, again, how much time is freed up now? How many other things can you now do? How much more productive are you? How much more time can you take to actually promote your brand now, as opposed to being bogged down to this one particular project? That's huge. And that, to me, because time is, the most important resource. And when you're able to open up, any more time, that's always a win. So again, allow your team to run free and do some of that work.
We've talked about that very subject, just the model of Trinity's real estate team.
Okay.
She's got how many people, officially or unofficially, that are part of your team? Half dozen,
anywhere,
right?
Yeah,
okay.
Around there.
And she is wise enough to realize that if I'm showing 2 houses and Jamie's showing 2 houses, who's the other guy that works for you that shows that will do some walkthroughs, or is he? Okay. Okay. Well, anyways. So, but by training her staff appropriately and trusting them, she can send them out and cover way more ground instead of, no, you set the appointment and I'll go do all these. You're like, oh, I'm going from Wake Forest to Durham out to Buquay.
Jamie's out with one of my clients right now showing
Yeah.
a house so I can be sitting here recording this podcast.
But yeah.
So thank you, Jamie.
Yep, that's
Appreciate you.
that's the beauty of it is Jamie gets rewarded for that. But Trinity was wise enough to go, man, if I want to scale.
and it's not just, and again, and I'm sure you've done this too, because I see all that you do. I can imagine as a boss, you train your team, and it's almost like you sometimes initially train them to be almost mini me's, like copycats. But when you release the reins and say, use your creativity, use your talents that I don't have, go do your thing, and then somebody comes back on your team and says, I know a lot about social media, more than I can take some of the things you taught me, and I can do this whole thing with social media. Like I would have never thought. I don't have the skill. Run with it, do it, and then now not only do you have this kind of carbon copy that is doing a lot of what you taught them, but then they're able to take it to another level that you wouldn't have been able to do yourself.
Exactly,
and that's the beautiful thing of that.
We found confirmation of Trinity's skills as a boss because she had a week of a wedding and a week of a honeymoon cruise, and everything kept moving forward.
There you go.
Yes.
And if you want to know anything about how good am I as a boss, did I train my people? Do they like doing this with me? And she got confirmation on both weeks.
And you should be able to trust them and let go and know that they've got it. And I felt 100% confident taking, I can step away from my business and it still will run without me, which is.
On the wedding week, Scott told you get how many minutes?
He said I got 5%.
Oh, 5% of the day to do business. Yeah.
To do business. Yeah.
Okay. And she did, you were pleased that you pretty much met that, right?
I did.
Yeah. And then the honeymoon was on a cruise. So sometimes you got no choice.
Right, yeah, that's it.
It's 0%.
Right.
But again, going back to being confident enough in yourself that you're not going to lose your business or get fired because all my people are awesome. I'm going to get credit for hiring all those awesome people.
Absolutely.
When you talk to employees about becoming a boss, are some of them afraid to step up because what their peers might think?
I haven't seen that as much. I feel like so when I'm talking about the idea of being a boss to employees, I feel like they almost take the concept for the most part, and once they kind of wrestle with it in their mind and get over any negative aspects they think may be there, they kind of take it and run with it on their own. And I feel like it's almost like they want an excuse to be unique or an excuse to take things to the next level. And this sometimes provides like that avenue to do it. Because some of the questions I get are more so like, well, because they want to branch out and take it to the next level. Well, how can I do it in this way? Or, ooh, I have this one idea. How can I take this and apply it to this idea? They start thinking about how they can it's like they had all these ideas in their mind. They just didn't know how to use it or how to do it. And now like, ooh, well, if we take this boss concept, how do I do this with it? And, branch off and do that. So I think that's the one beautiful thing about it is there's not necessarily like a one way to do it. It's not like you have to be rigid and just do it step 1, step 2, step 3. It's, again, whatever goals you're trying to reach, whatever skill sets you have and your ambitions, this particular model of mindset of what it is to be a boss allows that person to kind of run free, use what they have, and achieve just that.
When I was looking at your website, there was a video of you with Disrupt HR. It was in New York.
Right.
You had a great line. You were describing a worker, a subservient employee that does not have autonomy over what they can do.
Right.
And when I stop something and write something down, dude, you had me. Yeah. It's like, that is good. All right. In the words of my favorite partner, unpack that for us.
So I think everybody at some point in their career has been that drone worker. And I want to say, I'm like 90% sure the slide that I had up when I said that was the slide of the stormtrooper. I want to say that was
yes,
it. Okay,
it was.
that is okay.
Yep.
And
and they laughed when it came up because, like, again, I go back to pattern interrupt. You pull that up. Wait, we're not stormtroopers.
Right. And then I had the thing of the stormtrooper, and they, obviously they all look the
They're
same.
all
uniform.
identical. Yeah. They all move the
same.
same. There's no autonomy.
Exactly, none at all.
Yeah.
And of course, I say I'm the cute one in the front. They're like, what? That makes sense. They all look alike. But I say we've all been in that mindset or at that job where you feel like a drone. You have no autonomy, and you're just doing the same thing. I think it's so easy. Sometimes before you even get to the job, when you're just applying to the job, you go into working with that company with that particular mindset. And in doing so, obviously, you automatically handicap yourself. And then after some time goes by, 6 months, a year, whatever it is, they start to ask the questions of why don't I have fill in the blank? How come I'm not making that money? How come I don't have that position? Why do they get to whatever it is? And without even knowing it, they already slipped into that particular mindset that not only handicaps themselves, but it's kind of creating that barrier between them and whatever that opportunity is. So again, the idea of what it is to be a boss kind of releases you from that particular mindset and makes you look at your relationship with you and your team, you and that organization completely different. You're not going there to have that organization organize your steps in a very specific way. They hired you for a particular reason. And once you have a great idea of what that is, like what's your unique value proposition and how you can leverage that, that's why you're literally there on that team, then it allows you to really flaunt that and use that to your benefit. And then once you start to notice that in others, because again, I say it's infectious, then you can pull that out of other people. Hey, aren't you good with marketing? Well, help me out with this project, things of that nature. You're like, oh, I didn't even, and you can bring that without being the manager or the director necessarily. Once you're of that mindset, that's how you move, because now you start to see other people as their own entity up under this big umbrella of whatever company you work for. And when you do that, when you do it that way, you brand yourself a certain way. When you go to networking events, you talk to people differently, because I'm no longer Dauv that just works for XYZ company. I'm Dauv, the speaker extraordinaire or the accounting extraordinaire or the real estate extraordinaire that also happens to work with, and you start to think of your relationship with your organization more so as a partnership. This is the organization that allows me to use XYZ talent, not this is the organization that tells me where to go like a drone. And we all know the drones, the stormtroopers couldn't shoot well, and they always died really fast. And that's what happens to the employees.
Yeah.
You're not shooting straight, and you get killed really easy by Ewoks. And after, then it's just a sad story after that.
Ropes around.
I know,
the neck
ropes around. Yeah, like,
just
it's ridiculous. But that's what happens to employees. They're dying by Ewoks. It's rampant.
I always like to ask our guests a very special question. So you have two other coaches here in front of you, and we want to know, what question do you have for us that we could answer for our listeners?
Let me say this. So you all have a networking event. I know you go to networking events. What's one or two tips that you can give to like maximize your presence at a networking event? So when you leave that networking event, you always say, yeah, that was worth it because whatever you do to make it worth it.
Follow up, and follow up. Being at the networking event first starts with your appearance. So Mike knows that I'm a big fan of dressing for what you want to be or what you want to sell. So if you're just starting out in your career and you dress, like a slob, and you show up to the networking event and your hair's not done and you're not wearing nice clothes, then people are not going to be as drawn to and want to speak with you. When I started in my real estate career, I always wore skinny pants, a little top, and a blazer. And I would joke around that I was a ninja in a blazer. And that was my uniform. That's what I wore. And it was professional. It was also fun because wearing a pair of jeans or skinny pants, tones it down a little bit. So I'm not in a full suit. People wouldn't mistake me for a financial advisor. Right. But that first impression that you get, your first 10 seconds is vitally important when you're networking. And if you can be the person that gets a question out first before you start talking about yourself, then you'll win them over.
Right.
So back to my other favorite word, pattern interrupt. When somebody asks me what I do, I always like to do a pattern interrupt to throw them a little off guard. Okay. So when somebody asks me what I do for a living, I usually tell them I'm an underwater welder.
And you're like,
and then they're like, what? And I'm like, no, just joking. I'm actually a real estate agent.
Okay.
And then we have a good chuckle, and they're like, underwater welder. I'm like, well, I had a friend that actually was an underwater welder. It's a pretty cool profession, very dangerous. You get to travel a lot. You get about 2 weeks off at a time, 2 weeks on. Like, it's kind of a cool thing to do. But it instantly gets their brain off of the fact that I'm not jumping down their throat with what I do. I'm making them laugh. I'm making them remember me. And I can't even tell you how many people I have that come up to me. They're like, this is Trinity. She's an underwater welder. Ha, ha, ha. No, actually, she's a kick-ass real estate agent. Right. And it takes that pressure off, and that's my pattern interrupt. Okay. So the top 3 things that you can do is, 1, show up, be dressed nice, and dress for the job you want, the client you want, or the house you want to sell. Dauv, you look absolutely handsome today. He's got on a branded t-shirt with a blazer over it, looking sharp as all get out. And
Thank you.
just,
I mean, you'll make me
you
blush
know,
on the podcast.
no, hey, we'll give compliments where compliments are due.
And what separates Trinity from the other 9 realtors at the networking event is when they were asked the same question, they said, I'm a realtor. That
whole
was
pattern interrupt.
exactly.
The pattern interrupt
Right.
is really important. And then everything is, the icing on the cake is in the follow-up.
Oh, yeah.
So when you are at a networking event, you have a few minutes or, 15, 20 minutes to make an impression with each person. Usually it's a little bit shorter than that. And when I am collecting business cards, because I always say I should be the magnet. I want to collect all the business cards I can because I'm going to be the one that follows up with these people. That next step in the relationship is what's going to eventually lead to business, not selling and trying to get them to do something on the spot.
Right.
So when I get somebody's contact information, preferably if they have an address on there, then I'm sending them a handwritten note to follow up with my card and just something I write down on the back of their business card, something I remember about them. Whether it's that they love red wine or they just vacationed, in the mountains or whatever it is, something so I can remember something personal about them as well. That's really it. Like, that's the magic sauce that will separate you from everybody else that's networking, is to have a follow-up plan. It's either an email, a telephone call, or a handwritten note that you're sending after that. You want to get either face-to-face or have a one-to-one with them. I love group one-to-ones.
Okay.
Right? So instead of meeting with somebody one-on-one, why not, if I know that Dauv he talked about in the past, doing an event for, what was it, HR recruiters or?
Oh, yeah, HR professional.
HR professionals.
Right, yep.
Well, what if I invite Dauv to lunch and I have an HR professional come to lunch? Now Dauv thinks I kick ass because I'm introducing him to somebody that he wanted to get in front of, and we can have a better conversation, and I get basically 2 for the price of 1.
Right. That makes sense.
What about
And
you?
I like the fact of zero expectations. Not going to sell a dang thing. Who can I help?
Yep.
And you take 3 business cards. So you get to dictate who you hand them out to. Okay. And you only hand them out to the people you really, really want to meet. Everybody else is going to give you theirs.
Right.
But you may, and then you go, oh, you know what? You would think a networker like me would have cards. I lost it. But you do that because then you can control all that. And then also just set the follow-up. You're not going to sell a thing at those network events. Set the meeting up. Set the follow-up. Set the meeting.
Okay.
When you go there, it's like, hey, you meet Trinity and I, we're talking before we're done. You know what? Pull out your calendar. Do you have Friday morning available for a cup of coffee? Set that. Right. That's where something's going to happen. Not tonight.
Right.
We're just going to laugh about, she's from Michigan, small town. I learned all the stories at her wedding. That's another podcast.
He's got more dirt on
not
me.
on her, just a small town she grew up in. I'll tell you one when we get off air. It's not that I can't repeat it, it's just time-wise. But go with a plan. And she's preached this 100 times. Go with a plan instead of showing up. Go with a wingman, right? Nothing worse than seeing an old guy standing next to the bar drinking by himself because he doesn't know anybody.
Right.
But just have a plan. And the plan before the meeting and then the plan after the meeting. Because most people just, I'm going to this event. And and they look at it different than she does because they'll scorecard count or they'll business card count. Well, I got 31 business cards, boss. I had a good night.
Right.
How many meetings you get? Well, none, but I got 31 business cards. And she'll get 31 business cards in 7 meetings.
Right.
That's the difference is
There's
a plan. Yep.
There's a plan
So,
there.
have a plan.
I had a client that I was working with a couple years ago, and we were sitting down one day, and she said, I'm quitting networking events. These are just stupid. They don't work. I'm not getting any business from it. And my very first question to her was, well, how many of the people that you're networking with have you met with face to face afterwards? She was like, none. It's like, well, there is your absolute problem. You cannot assume that because somebody meets you one time, they're going to remember you. They're not. Even with a pattern interrupt, they're not going to remember you because they met 15 other people. And secondly, when they don't remember you, they're not going to call you. Or if they do remember you, they're probably still not going to call you because there's no relational collateral yet for them to trust you. And people work with people that they know, like, and trust. And so the first step is getting to know them and then figuring out if you like each other. And then that trust is built.
Excellent. There's a lot of people who stumble, as you all know, there's a lot of people who stumble with that, with networking, and get turned off so much they just don't even want to go anymore. So
Yeah. And you find out when they say I don't do that anymore, it's because they didn't put anything into it.
Right.
Wonderful stuff.
Excellent.
Sorry you were home. Glad you were home.
It's an opportunity.
And I think both statements are correct.
Yeah.
We would like to tell everybody, because a lot of small businesses are struggling right now, if you send us a note at info@wiredtochange, we would love to sit for 30 minutes for free with small business owners to help them out.
And in addition to our free consultations that we're offering, because we love our community, we want to see everyone happy, healthy. We want to see businesses thrive. We feel like we have a couple of great ideas that we can help pitch out there for those small business owners. So as Mike said, we would love if you email us info@wiredtochange.com with the number 2. And also, because we had this COVID-19 happen, we were not able to host our last Small Business Scene 2020 workshop. And we have rescheduled and are hosting that now virtually online. So there's no reason not to sign up and join us. And that is going to be on April 10th. So if you would like more information, head out to our website, check us out, and we would love to have you join us virtually from around the country. You can join from anywhere that you're at.
Please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. We'd love any feedback from you. And if you'll help us grow the numbers by forwarding out to your friends and family, we know there's a nugget or two they can get from this. And we'll see you next time on our Wired to Change podcast.